Intimacy direction. What is it? Where did it come from? And what's going on with it now? This week on Now What? I'm here with Nicole Perry of Momentum Stage. Thank you, Nicole, for stopping by and doing this.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is something that every time I bring up intimacy or intimacy direction, people have no idea what I'm talking about. Can you tell me a little bit about where this was born and where this came from?
Sure. I have had a lot of conversations in the past year that have followed a similar vein. What is this? So intimacy direction is a term that was coined by Tonia, who's the founder of Intimacy Directors International. And she actually started working on this when she was doing her master's at Virginia Commonwealth. And she was looking at movement direction, but specifically as a fight choreographer. But she was asked, as one of the only women in the program, to choreograph a lot of the sexual violence and even just sexy scenes, because there was no one else who was sort of willing to do them or interested in doing them. And she looked around and realized that this was a real hole in the industry, that there was no way to codify these, practice these, structure these scenes of intimacy, whether it's consensual or sexual violence, or even just intense eye contact, or something that we think of as really simple, like a kiss, which is not at all simple. It's one of the most complex things to do. So she came at it from a movement director, fight director standpoint, and developed intimacy for the stage. And then she founded Intimacy Directors International with Alicia, Rodis, and Siobahn, Richardson, and now Claire Warden works with them. And there's another organization, Theatrical Intimacy Education, that Chelsea Pace and Laura Ripken run, and they all train intimacy directors now.
So the coincidence that the Me Too movement happens as this is coming about in the industry, I know this is something that Hollywood has paid special attention to now, and now the Stage Directors Union is even starting to put some information out on there. What would it take to become certified as an intimacy choreographer?
Yeah, so IDI does certify intimacy directors, and they have an apprenticeship model, and to even apply for apprenticeship you have to have at least 50 hours of training with them. Not 50 hours of training in a movement style or between multiple organizations, 50 hours of training with them to even apply for apprenticeship. And they take only 10 apprentices in each apprenticeship cycle. And you train with them, with their already certified intimacy directors and with some of the lead instructors, and you train in pedagogy and in creation. And then you become certified, and it's sort of individual timelines once you've been apprenticed. And Theatrical Intimacy Education has a slightly different model because they are really coming out of academia. So they are looking a lot at the teaching of this and how we make it accessible for students.
So is the idea not only that once you're trained as an intimacy director that you work on projects or you consult with a company, are you then out to spread the word and then train other people?
Yes, because this field is so new. Even though Tonia's been working on it for 15 years, wow. The field is really very new in its use, and it's becoming quite hot. As you mentioned, Hollywood is using it a lot. It even was mentioned in Beverly Hills 90210, the reboot, like as a talking point in the actual show. So it's becoming a known entity, but education is still a very big part of what we do, particularly in theater. And there are some of us who are working in dance and in opera and other performing arts where people have to interact can benefit from this.
So as an arts organization, and if I were to send some of my staff to a workshop or to even get certified, what is the benefit? Where do we define what an intimate moment that needs special attention? I mean, the organization itself defines that, correct?
Yeah.
So it would benefit them from going through a training so they could identify those things in the scripts or circumstances that might need more than a fight director.
Right. Intimacy Directors International has their own definition, and so does Theatrical Intimacy Education, but the commonalities are anything that would be simulated sex, whether it's consensual or sexual violence, and anything that requires nudity, whether partial or full from the actor, and anything with physical contact. It could be as simple as a hug, a handhold, or as intense as kissing, because there's actually a lot of physical contact that happens there.
Well, and because it's more than the actual moment on stage or the moment in rehearsal. It's about creating the atmosphere, creating a closed set where the whole ensemble's not watching us have a kiss rehearsal for the first time. But it's also about coaching the environment that the director needs to create.
Yeah, a lot of this is about consent and communication between the actors who are doing the intimacy, but also between the ensemble and the director and the choreographer. It really builds collaboration, and that's one of the pillars that IDI is founded on, is that everybody is in this together and we're all trying to carry out the story.
Right, so now what?
Well, we're having some workshops in South Florida with Dan Granke, who's a lead instructor from IDI, and he's also a fight director. So he came to the work from the fight side of things, whereas I've come to it from a dance side. So he has a very different take on it, which I think is exciting, and I'm really happy to bring him in. So those are hosted by Momentum Stage at Rising Stars in Davie, and those are October 19th and 20th. And we have a separate workshop for performers and for directors, so we can tailor the information to the role that people play on stage or in a production. But people are welcome to either one, because it really is the same information. We're giving the directors the same kind of info that we're giving actors, and vice versa. There's no secrets that one is being told versus the other. Everybody's getting the same information, just the workshop is geared a little differently.
Right, and then after these workshops, if hopefully every theater company in South Florida contacted you to bring you in to consult with their artistic team, I think there's a lot of moments in every play. We put ourselves out there in such emotional vulnerability that there's a lot, and like you said, even a hug or a handshake or something like that. I mean, I've gotten handshakes from guys that hurt me. You know, in real life. Let's not do that on stage. There's no reason for that. But so what's the broader picture beyond the workshops?
Yeah, I'm currently working with a company here for this season on all of their shows, which is really interesting because their intimate moments do sort of run the gamut. We have everything from an almost kiss, which is actually really exciting because that's the most tension and chemistry, and really one of the most exciting moments for the audience is are they or aren't they, right? To a scene where the female partner ties up her male partner, and that's a very different kind of intimacy. So it's really exciting to work with them for the season and go through this range. But intimacy could be anything. It could be siblings at a graveside, you know, anything that requires physical interaction, but also personal vulnerability for the characters.
Tied to those emotions, those things, those physicalities that are tied to those emotions that actors struggle so hard to get to and recreate in a real manner.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of tools here to be gained.
Yeah, it's really important that a director knows that an intimacy choreographer and intimacy director is there to collaborate with the director on fulfilling the director's creative vision and telling the story. You know, we're trained in developing this kind of movement to further the story and to communicate with the audience, not to come in and set something so the sexual harassment police don't come arrest you or something. It's not a thing.
Well, it could be a thing someday. I don't know. We're moving closer to George Orwell every day, I think. So again, I think the call to action here, now what, for the community, for the nation, for our art form as a whole is let's have these conversations. Let's continue to make these rehearsal spaces that are our home, our sanctuary, keep them safe, keep the trust that an actor puts in a director, that he or she is not going to put them in a position to feel uncomfortable that gets in the way of the work.
Yeah, it's about creating a professional working environment, and this is a role that helps do that, to protect our actors, to remind them that they really do have agency over their bodies, and to give them the tools and the skills necessary to do their job as well as possible.
Yeah, good. MomentumStage.org. Nicole Perry, make sure you check out our workshop. Send somebody you know. This is very important. Now what?